want to recap a little bit about last week. Okay, for those of you who were here, for those of you who weren't and didn't catch last week, then you're going to get a little bit of an education here, get caught up a little bit. So, um, mindfulness is awareness; it's fluid. Um, we talked about this in the first week. The mindfulness is awareness. Awareness is fluid, meaning the more you practice, the deeper you understand it. That hopefully by the time that we're done here tonight, your awareness, you will be even more aware of your awareness. Just when you think you're aware, and then you learn something else in it, and your understanding expands, you realize how little you weren't aware before then, and you think you're aware now, and then next week you're going to realize that you weren't really as aware this week as you thought you were. So it's very fascinating, in my opinion. It's very humbling to know that um, we're big Game of Thrones fans around here, and my favorite saying is, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," and I say that to myself quite a bit. Um, so mindfulness isn't necessarily religious, though it can be. I'm not real big into dogma. I'm more into spirituality and exploring that aspect of religion. But I am not here to teach you religion or dogma or preach to you. I am here to teach you mindfulness and awareness and make you healthier, hopefully make you happier. And if you find a way to apply that to your religious and spiritual beliefs, then more power to you. I'm very happy for you. So please make it your own. That's what's important. Um, we know that breathing is arguably the most important single act that we will do every day. We talk. You can go weeks without food. You can go days without water, but you can't go minutes without your breath. For God's sakes, at least take a moment every day to be grateful you woke up and started breathing. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't wake up. And so be grateful for it. Gratitude is I hope as we go through these that your gratitude is naturally beginning to wake up as you begin to look at the world differently. This should start with the breath. That's the most important thing that you have every day is going to be your breath. Everything else from there works in that. We became aware of the sigh of relief, right? That we just blow it all out. Major league pitcher stands on the mound. Thousands of people, if not millions of people watching, getting ready to watch him throw a pitch. The last thing he does is take a sigh of relief, blow it all out. We practiced that a little bit. We're going to do that again tonight. We talked a little bit about the stress response last week. We know the stress response is when it's triggered, that the thalamus in the brain sends signals to initiate the fight or flight response, which is our survival mode. We talked about some things that triggered response, the most popular ones. I don't know if popular is the word I should use, but seem to be sharks, clowns, heights, and snakes. I'm sure we could probably throw spiders on that list as well. Those were the ones that freaked people out the most. But then we talked about it in greater depth from that standpoint, that from a physiological standpoint, your bodies don't know the difference between a snake and an unpaid bill. The only difference between those things is your perception. And so the only thing we're really afraid of, or the only thing that really causes stress in our body is our perception, right? If we see a rubber snake laying in the garden and we think it's a snake, suddenly we are scared and the stress response is triggered. It's not a real snake, it's a rubber snake. So it isn't really threatening to us. It was our perception of what it was, which is why some people are afraid of snakes. Some people aren't afraid of snakes. Some people are afraid of heights. Some people aren't afraid of heights. Okay? So our perception is what triggers our stress response. And that's extremely important to know. The perception is that the incoming information is interpreted by the brain. The brain decides what really is stressful or what's harmful, what's not. Sends a stress response to the body based on the interpretation. Like I said, it doesn't know if it's a snake or an unpaid bill. It doesn't know the difference. All it knows is that you have perceived that there's some kind of a threat. Boom, it lights up the stress response. So we talked about our choices and our perceptions, mainly our choices based on those perceptions, whether they're intentional or unintentional, conscious or unconscious, to make choices on how to perceive and process from there on everything we do all day long. There is no exception to this. Everything you do, you make choices and decisions all day long. Most of them are unconscious. You don't even realize you're doing them. So, as I mentioned before, I got a little note down here. The brain doesn't know the difference between a real snake or a rubber snake. It doesn't know the difference between a compliment or an insult, which is why, sarcasm and backhanded compliments. Um, I think we've all experienced those at time, and we're like, we don't know how to take that. Well, so there's your perception. You're trying to decide whether you want to be happy about what they said or you want to get ramped up and punch them in the face. I only said that because that's a stress response. See, the fight or flight, not because I advocate punching people in the face. That would probably be a different discussion for a different time. Violence is never the answer. The point is when if someone gives you a backhanded compliment, you don't know if they're really complimenting you or they're insulting you. You don't know whether to be happy or get angry and let the stress response flare up. And it's all comes down to how we perceive things. It's perception. So mindfulness is an awareness. Having awareness helps us make better choices. Maya Angelou, she has one of my favorite quotes that says, "Once we know better, we can do better," and that is mindfulness, pretty much in a nutshell. So, we talked about neuroplasty last week. Did anyone look up neuroplasty after the presentation last week? Anyone? I come with the Bueller jokes again. All right, either no one did or someone's typing. You did look it up? Okay. So it's a thing. Neuroplasty is the ability to change the way your brain functions, literally. There's many different aspects to it, many different things. You can literally change how you think about things, how you perceive things, how you interact with people. There's no limit. The older we get, the harder it becomes. That's why you'll hear people say they're set in their ways, typically to mean someone from the older generation, but it's still something that everyone can do, which is what we're doing here. So, yeah, so you're not stuck with who you are. I think I mentioned that last week. I'm so tired of people saying it's just who I am. It is not who you are. It's who you choose to be. If you're okay with it, then be okay with it. If you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. But don't give me this garbage. It's just who I am. No, it's who you want to be, or you're making an excuse for who it is. We get to be who we want. Neuroplasty theory proves that. We can change our neural pathways, the way the brain functions. We can physically change our brains. There's a lot of evidence where actually the brain grows thicker in certain areas through mindfulness and meditation. We can change the chemical reactions that are responsible for our moods. We can literally make ourselves happy. We can live. What's that? The memes. Everybody's like, say it louder for the people in the back. We can literally learn to make ourselves happier and this is proven. We can change the chemical. Your happiness is driven by the chemical responses in your brain. Our thoughts and our actions and our attitudes can drive that. We can learn it. It's not necessarily easy. I will never make that claim. I don't want to get any arguments with anybody. I can tell you, I'm just telling you, it can be done. Again, and as I mentioned in the first one, I'm not a doctor. There are experts for this kind of thing. I'm just telling you that it has been proven that we can. Mindfulness really helps with depression and those kind of things, so we can make ourselves happier. What it all boils down to is we literally get to choose who we want to be. And for example, I told you last week, I'm Batman. So we'll go on from there. So it all starts with cultivating the awareness to take control. This one's written. Sorry, I'm going to read this one. The cultivating the awareness to take control of how we choose to react to things. Our perception, then how we choose to react. Okay. Step two is controlling your emotions and thoughts. That's down the road. We'll get to that later. Baby steps. We're only human. We make mistakes. And so we ended last week. We ended last week with a quick session where I attempted to demonstrate the power that you have to literally change the way how you feel with your thoughts. Does anyone want to share their experience from last week when we did that? Remember, I had you think about something that was unpleasant. Then I had you check internally for your awareness to see how you physically felt. To maybe check, your heart rate, your emotions, how your body felt. Some people said they had some clenching of body parts going on, and then we did a breathing exercise to bring ourselves back out of that. Does anyone want to share what happened? Did that work for them? Were you surprised? Was it something that you had experienced before, you had forgotten, or something completely caught you off guard? It was a new revelation for you. It was a basic technique that we will talk more. We'll go more as we go into anger and anxiety in a few weeks. It's a basic technique to show you the power that you have in your breathing and your awareness with your mind, depending on where you divert your energy. And it's golden. It is just absolutely golden. It's not easy to do. I mean, the more powerful the emotions. Good. Jenny says she'd experienced that before. She found last week's session even more effective. Jenny, thank you. Thank you for bailing me out and helping me out here. Not making me feel like I'm standing here by myself. But it's very powerful, and as I said, we get into anxiety and anger. It will become a powerful tool for when you recognize that someone is moving you off center, and you realize that it's not appropriate to respond with strong emotions, because it happens, right? Sometimes people say things to us or do things that really set us off that if you really look back on it, it probably wasn't that big of a deal. And so we make those choices. It's hard to recognize those. As we learn to recognize those, right? When we know more, we do better. Then we'll have some tips and techniques. A lot of it's learned behavior. So if someone says something to you, I mean, we probably all have this one thing that when someone says to us, that it just immediately lights everything up. I know I do. I have a key word that I can't say here that it was a fighting word when I was younger. I grew up in a rough neighborhood, so it was a fighting word. Still, if someone says that to me, even teasing me today, it still elicits a response. Now I have the ability to know that it's not that big a deal, and who cares what this person thinks, or if they're friends of mine and they're just playing, teasing me or whatever. That's what it is, and then so I go in and I use this technique myself that we did last week. But sometimes it takes a little more as the emotions are stronger. But we'll talk about those too. So said there's a time delay. She's telling me to be patient. So I think that's my life. That's my life lesson is patience. So is it time to type? Breathing awareness, change your feelings. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Said that she would say that it helped her to take some of the power that thought had over how it felt in her body. That's exactly right. It's very empowering. We are just scratching the surface of how much power you actually have in your brain that you don't use. We're not taught to use it appropriately, I don't think, and so that's exactly right. Says she recognized the vibrations in her body. Shoulders were hunched, her tongue was pressed against the roof of her mouth. After the breathing exercise, she noticed stillness within. That's exactly what we're talking about. Someone said that last week that they noticed that they clenched their fists. They'd never noticed that before. Jaws a lot. People clench shoulders. People scrunch and hunch their shoulders. For sure. And we're doing that. We don't even realize it's all automatic responses. So thank you for sharing, everyone. Okay. So when we did that, that's basic human biology. what we did. Okay. So in short, the stress response, the spark is the perception. Okay, we talked about that. It's not necessarily whatever the object is that we think causes it. That's external. Okay, that's external thinking. There are two types of thinking: external thinking, internal thinking. When you look at when you say to that person, it's, and the best example is use like a small child when they're like, if someone else made me do it, right? And then so with the we election, like nobody made you do it. They may have told you to do it, but you chose to do it. And that's what we're talking about on a different level here. All right. If someone comes up and insults you to your face, and then you lash out and react at them with a negative, with anger or whatever the case may be, you made a choice to do that. And I'm not here to discuss whether it was warranted or unwarranted. That's not my point. My point is that you made a choice. The external thinking is the victimization. I'm a victim. They made me do it. They yelled at me. They don't like me. They did this to me. They what? That's a victimization, and that's what we're taught as a child. Okay, and that's our ego playing the part of trying to protect us. We're not the bad people. They're the bad people. The ego's job is to protect us, but sometimes the ego lies to us to do that. And so when we see a rubber snake or a snake on the ground, whatever the case may be, and our perception sets that off. Okay, it isn't the snake that did it; it's our perception. The difference between the two is monumental, because when we take that into the other aspects of our life, like I was just talking about, when we get into people who don't like us, people intentionally trying to hurt us, people who are snubbing us, people who are making fun of us, whatever, we realize that the external circumstances are not the problem. Okay, our perception of them, and then based on our perception comes the reaction. When we understand that, we stop becoming a victim and we start taking control. We start making decisions. When someone insults us, we decide: do we want to react? Is it warranted? Do we want to react angrily? Do we need to strike back out at them? Do we need to laugh at them? Do we need to ignore them? What do we need to do? Do we need to just go in a corner and cry and do our breathing work and our mindfulness and meditation to heal ourselves and make ourselves feel better? And the whole gambit in between of whatever that takes. But we suddenly aren't blaming that person for doing it. We're taking ownership and realizing that our perception is what's key here, and we're going to work from there. We become the masters of our own reality. And that is a cold, hard, truthful fact that will change your entire life. Okay. So when we work from that point, when we know that from an internal standpoint, when we own it, from the perception is where it starts. That's the gate. Perception at the gate is where the whole thing starts. When the stress response is triggered in the body, okay, it is triggered when we make our perception. Suddenly, the brain makes a decision of whether we're stressed or not, and the actual cascading of the stress response starts when the carbon dioxide levels begin to rise in the brain, or in the body, but in the body. And then the brain perceives that the carbon dioxide levels are going up. Now, this is critical. It may not seem like a big deal, but this is a really, really, really big deal. Okay? It's not the lack of oxygen. It's the rise of carbon dioxide. Okay, so when we have our physical response, you inhale oxygen, goes into the lungs, into the alveoli, the capillaries pull the oxygen out to take it to other parts of the body. It takes it to the tissue, gives them oxygen molecules, but it trades in. It's like, here's your oxygen, and they're like, okay, we'll take your old stuff out. It takes the carbon dioxide, and it's like, okay, I'll get rid of it for you, and then it carries it back to the lungs, and we breathe out carbon dioxide. Okay. The correlation here is that stress response is triggered by the buildup of CO2 in the body because when you perceive something as a threat, the first thing you do is go, you hold your breath. And I'm not going to argue with any of you because you all do it. Everybody does. We either hyperventilate or we hold our breath. If you haven't already in the last couple of weeks discovered that you're holding your breath all day long when you're stressed, start paying attention. Be more mindful. You'll notice that you're holding your breath. It is a natural response. That gasp of air. How many times have you, if you walk around the corner and you see a snake on the ground, you clutch your chest, you breathe in, hold your breath, just like that. It immediately sends a stress response through the roof. Okay. So if the stress response is typically initiated by holding our breath, how do we alleviate it? By breathing. Which is why we're practicing mindfulness. Okay. So, the holding your breath is just the opposite of the sigh of relief, right? The gasping, you gasp, it's just the opposite of. So now you have the antidote. Now you know what causes it. You can catch yourself doing it. When you catch yourself doing it, be nice to yourself, please. Please. Most of us probably aren't very nice to ourselves, even if you're not aware of it. We're gonna talk about that more in the coming weeks too. Probably not very nice to yourself when you talk to yourself inside, and half of you probably don't realize that you're not very nice to yourself inside. So when you catch yourself doing it, be nice to yourself and say, "Oh, let's not hold our breath anymore." Okay, but I want you to pay attention for that. Okay, let me stop check the comments real quick. Yeah, brought up a good point. She said she had a teacher who always told her to just breathe. How many people have said to each other or have people say to you, just breathe? Just breathe. It's because we hold our breath when we're stressed. Good point. Yeah. And then you realize, thank you for sharing that. You're absolutely right. So, good. Breathe, breathe. Yes. Yes. Breathe. Yep. It does explain a lot, doesn't it? It's amazing it's amazing when you know. Hopefully your whole world just tipped that everything start making sense. You didn't realize it didn't make sense before. Yeah, been gasping for breath for a month now. So I'm going to assume because of the group we're in that correlates with the news or developing circumstances. And I'm sorry for that, but now we're going to talk about how to move through that. Says she swallows more air, so you don't hold your breath. Is it? And even if you're not holding your breath, I'm going to guess that you're disrupting the expulsion of the carbon dioxide, right? And that's what hyperventilation is. Hyperventilation is you're breathing so fast. You think you're taking more oxygen in, but you can't because you can't get the CO2 out, and that's why people hyperventilate because the CO2 just stays in the bottom of their lungs, and they can't expel it. So I would have to say that that's probably part of what you're experiencing yourself. So, all right. Says she's got a breathing app. Good. Okay. All right. Good. We got a lot of stuff to cover, and I don't want to go too far over, and I don't want to lose anybody. So, all right. So I'm gonna try to move through this pretty quick. Okay. But I want to tell you what happens when the body initiates a stress response. There are two hormones that are released, two main hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. Okay. So I'm going to do this really, really, really quick. So when the CO2 levels go up, the thalamus kicks in, and I like to think does the Chris Farley, does say, "Oh my God," and goes into a complete panic. Okay. And the thalamus then begins something what's called selective filtering. The thalamus decides what it what can go in your brain and what cannot, what the brain's going to perceive and what it's not going to perceive. Okay, it actually happens all the time. So I'm going to give you two examples. The first example is it's probably happening right now, to be honest. Maybe your air conditioner is running in the background, maybe a TV's running, a fan, maybe some family is talking in the background. If you have kids, maybe they're playing and making noise, or the neighbor may be mowing his lawn. I don't know. But there is noise going on in the background for most of you, and you're not paying attention to it because your thalamus has said that's benign and it's not important. Thalamus does that all day long. Okay. Where this is a related example is if you're, and I'm going back to my saber-toothed tiger example here. If you're walking through Walmart parking lot, you are minding your own business, singing along. Some car next to you has their radio up and they're playing Journey's "Don't Stop Believing," and you're singing that to yourself as you're bebopping through the parking lot, and you're suddenly confronted by a saber-toothed tiger right in front of you, and he's going to eat you. I'm going to guarantee you at that moment, you suddenly no longer have any awareness that Journey's don't, even though it's your favorite song, Journey's "Don't Stop Believing" is still playing in the background. Suddenly, that your memories from back in 1982 don't mean anything anymore because you have a saber-toothed tiger standing right in front of you, looking at you like a fat, juicy steak. Okay, your thalamus shut all that down. All your memories from then, from the car that's playing, whatever. The thalamus is like, we got to zero in and focus right here. Okay, it decided that it wasn't important. It didn't make the cut. Shuts everything out. That's why but this is why you hear people say that they perform well under pressure because because they lack personal discipline. That's completely different conversation for another time. But when they're stressed and they got to give a presentation for work or something, and they're stressed about it, they can zero in because the stress of thalamus helps them zero in. Okay, it's where the term when people say "I can't think" comes from. All right. It's only occasionally beneficial. It's only good for the occasional work presentation or a mindfulness presentation, I guess. If you have a deadline, if you're competitive in some type of sport, I like to do triathlons, and I'm competitive, so there's this thing I want to compete, and so I can zero in, and that kind of stress is good. Okay, or if you're suddenly confronted by a saber-toothed tiger, it's going to be good for you. Not the tiger, but the stress response, or something comparable to any of the above. But any other time, it's not good. Okay, it's not. Don't we can't confuse this with the ability to focus. That is a discipline issue. Actually, focus and discipline can be increased through mindfulness practice, cultivated longer on. It cannot be confused. Okay, intentionally stressing yourself out chronically over and over and over again to be able to focus is a really bad way to go. Okay, because there are physical responses that happen. We're going to run down these real quick. Okay. So adrenaline and cortisol are the two main hormones that are released when the body is stressed. Okay. When the adrenaline is released, and we all know the adrenaline feeling. That's the fight or flight. That's when your neck swells up and your heart begins to race. You begin to sweat. That's when we really feel it. That's the adrenaline, and we all know what that feeling is. That's the adrenaline adrenaline is a hormone that makes the mother lift the car off her baby. That's adrenaline. It's a very, very, very powerful hormone that you don't want to use very often because it's so powerful. So what adrenaline does is it signals the brain to redirect energy and blood from the internal organs to the muscles. Right? We got to fight or we got to run or both. Okay? You don't need it in here. You need it out here. Okay? And so the brain immediately, the adrenaline kicks in, and then the body goes. Now, the energy is glucose. Okay, and so it's pulling the glucose, sugar that your body needs. It's pulling it from places where it's normally stored because it thinks you need it to fight or to run. Okay, the glucose is released from the liver. So it goes, if all of a sudden the adrenaline starts dumping sugar out of the liver into the bloodstream. You have this buildup of all this sugar in the blood because the body thinks you're going to need it in certain body parts to be able to fight or run. Body temperature increase, your blood pressure will increase, your heart rate will increase, all that. You'll sweat that kind of thing. Okay. As your adrenaline levels rise, the more glucose is released by the liver, then cortisol levels also rise. And what cortisol does is it will cause the tissue to be less resistant, less sensitive to insulin. Okay. So it prevents tissue from taking in the sugar it needs. So it goes to the muscles. It's basically telling the rest of the body, you can't have this. I know you need it, but you can't have it because we're going to die. So we need it out here. Okay. So the blood sugar rises, your blood sugar rises and it stays high because critical areas of the body aren't getting it. Okay. So this causes, chronically, this causes so many problems. Number one thing it causes is weight gain. Okay. The body is out of whack on the energy. It's all over the place. Okay, you got organs that are starving. They like, we don't have any glucose. We need glucose, and then you've got an excess buildup in the bloodstream because it can't get into anywhere and builds up, and then you calm down, and then the body's got to store it somewhere. What is it? How's it going to store it? It's going to store it as fat. Just what the body does. So it actually chronic stress exacerbates weight gain. Okay. The other thing it does is it will send signals that you need to eat more because you need more sugar. It's like, we're going to burn all this up fighting, so we need to eat if we can, which is the body's confused. You're like, oh, you got to fight for your life, but we want you to eat. But this is where stress eating comes in. I don't know if anybody here is a victim of stress eating, but I tend to eat when I'm stressed, and it's a family trait, and my family fights obesity because of it. Okay, so when you combine this with the fact that not only when you eat, you're activating the reward center of the brain, it's a very dangerous slippery slope to get down, to be chronically stressed, have your blood sugar go up, have your body crave food. You eat to give it the sugar that it needs, you're stress eating, and it rewards the brain and it feels good. That's a vicious cycle to get in. And so we need to get that stopped. Another one is suppressed immune system. Cortisol is a good hormone, but it needs to be used very minimally when it's supposed to reduce inflammation. But when it's chronically released through stress, then it can turn against the body. And the body's immune system begins to turn on itself. Higher susceptibility to traditional illness. That's why people are stressed or sick all the time. And higher risk of cancer and autoimmune disease, which we see quite a bit too. The other thing is digestive problems. I just told you that the adrenaline takes all the blood and all the sugar from in here and puts it out here. Well, you need blood to digest your food, and you need sugar to feed the tissues that are working to digest your food. So when that chronically happens, it's called shunting. When the body shunts the blood away from the middle. This is like when people work out really hard and then they maybe they've eaten recently and they end up vomiting. That's why, because the body shunts the blood away from the digestive system and it can't digest the food, so they become sick. Chronically being stressed and this reaction chronically happening over and over again can cause severe digestive problems, including ulcers. We all know stress causes ulcers. Ulcers is a big one. Colitis, IBS, and other digestive diseases like that. Heart disease. That's why firefighters die at a very young age, because of all the stress they go through while they're working on duty. I think everyone knows high blood pressure and constricted arteries builds up plaque. So chronic stress causes heart disease. Also causes DNA damage. And when you're talking about damaging your DNA, we're talking about damaging your body at the most basic level. And damaging your DNA leaves you a higher risk for cancer. Um, and most notably, you can see the DNA damage in premature aging. If you've ever looked at someone and or heard someone say you can see it in their face, that they're stressed, and people wear their stress, and you can tell by through premature aging, and that's the DNA damage as well. So I know that's a lot of information. I won't go on. I really tried to water that down. Basically, it's not good for you. We have to stop it, and that's what we're here to do. Okay. But I wanted you to know how serious this is as you discover how often you're doing this. I'm gonna guess that a lot of you have already discovered that you're doing it more than you thought, and I'm also going to guess that most of you are going to figure out in the coming weeks that you're doing it even more than you think you're doing it right now. It's chronic. You're doing it all day long. Mindfulness brings awareness to that, and then we learn how. And it's a slow process. Okay, I know. And the other thing is, not only is it not good for us physically and mentally, we've talked about both physically and mentally, but it also manifests into depression and anxiety, and it can make us toxic in our own right. Okay, toxicity is a very touchy subject with this group. I'm going to tell you, when I began realizing about 15 years ago that the stress from all the terrible things that had happened to me in my lifetime, that they were actually making me toxic, that was a hard pill to swallow. And really began to break that down and realize, holy crap, I'm that person that I complain about. Okay. And once I was horrified, but then something miraculous happened. I began to see, I decided that I wasn't going to be toxic any longer. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, about a half an hour ago. I took ownership of it, decided that I was going to be different. I began to address it head on. And I decided not to be a victim. I wasn't going to allow all the things that happened to me when I was younger dictate who I was going to be. I wasn't just going to be a jerk and be toxic because bad things had happened to me. I was gonna be better than that, and that I didn't realize I had that mentality. I was going to make the switch, and I decided who I wanted to be. I have created who I am today. I've created that over the last 15 years out of a person I designed. When all that happened, I decided this is who I want to be. So when we go back into the this is who I am stuff, I can't process that because I decided no, this is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. This is who I'm going to be, and that's what I've done. It takes the victimization out of it. So I still have my episodes. I'm still human. I still get emotional. I get wound up. I get bent over stupid things. My wife rolls her eyes at me. We spend all day together, work out of the home. She doesn't work. She rolls her eyes at me probably 10 times a day. We've been together 31 years. So, um, you know, but I'm still human, but I make progress every day, and my happiness grows every day. And that's what I want for you. That's why we're here. So hopefully we can do that. And so we're getting ready to meditate. Gosh, we've gone a long time. We waited a long time to get people in, but I want to have a quick, frank conversation. All right, mindfulness is an amazing tool. I call it the cure. There isn't anything that can be cured with this thing. The evidence is overwhelming. More evidence is coming every day. I'm sure there are exceptions. There are always exceptions. I don't want to overgeneralize, but there's a catch. We're at a pivotal point right here. Okay, you have to decide where you want this to go for you, because mindfulness is a thing that once this door is opened, it can't be closed. Right? Once you take this toy out of its original packaging, it doesn't go back in the way it came. Mindfulness will change your perception of everything. Okay. We're going to begin to dig a little deeper in our practice, beginning here in about 2 minutes. We're going to go into a deeper meditation. We're going to start getting into some intricate stuff in the coming weeks. Okay. I don't know what's coming for you, what's not coming for you. I'm going to tell you that we're going to do some exercises designed to increase your own personal intimacy with yourself. Someone said earlier in the chat they don't like to be alone with themselves. That's what this is for. Okay, you have to be ready for this, and I don't want to say you have to be ready like I'm scaring you, because this is the best thing that'll ever happen to you as far as I'm concerned. Okay, but I want you to know where we're headed. Okay, um, we're going to challenge ourselves to grow, and sometimes growth can be uncomfortable. I just told you that when I discovered that I was being toxic as a symptom of the things that happened to me, that was uncomfortable. I didn't like it. You know, I had to practice a lot of self compassion, which we're going to work on compassion in a couple of weeks. Okay, sometimes growth is uncomfortable, but it is always rewarding. Mindfulness can change your entire existence. Okay, it'll change the way you live, the way you laugh, the way you work, all of it, everything. People will notice, which will cause different problems, but we'll talk about those as they come as well. Okay, I can assure you to be the most rewarding thing that you ever do for yourself. It's the best thing you can ever do for yourself. Taking temporary vacations, taking a bath, it all goes away, it all ends. But mindfulness you can take with you everywhere. It'll change everything. Okay. The last thing I want to throw in here before we start meditating is as I just gave you that speech, I just talked about it. You're not alone here. Okay. You have, you have me, you have all these other amazing people in this group as a tremendous resource for healing and community. Okay. Has done a great job of keeping this a healing environment. And with almost 6,000 people, that is a monumental task. Okay. There, people have a lot of different opinions about the way things should be run here and the way this and that. People have left and started other groups, that kind of thing. But this is a delicate situation because we've all been hurt, and it's easy for misery to love company and for human mob mentality for people to pull each other down, even if they're doing so unintentionally and think they're helping each other. So it's this place is amazing because, and the other moderators and the people who help her have done a great job of keeping it positive, because it could spin out of control very easily at any moment. So it's important to keep it on course at the time. So you have an amazing positive group here to grow with, and so you are never alone. You never should allow your ever don't ever allow yourself to think you're alone in any of this anymore. That's your perception. We talked about your perception. I just called you out. You're never alone. You have people here. Find someone if you want to work through it. Help you work through it. Okay. So, all right, let's do some meditation. All right. So I would like for you to get comfortable. You can lie down on your back. You can recline in a chair. If you lie down on your back, make sure you have a pillow and a blankie, and we'll see you in the morning. If you are sitting upright in a chair, please put your feet flat on the floor and try to sit up straight. Being comfortable is the most important thing, but we want your posture to be good. We've talked about that before. If you're sitting on the floor, make sure you sit either cross-legged or lotus or half lotus. Just be comfortable. If you're sitting on the floor, again, you can sit up on a pillow or a yoga block or something to take the tension off your hips. But I'd like for you to get settled in. You're just in time for the meditation, but please watch the earlier portion so you can get some of the biological information with you. Okay, so if everyone is settled in, please close your eyes and take in your deep breath. Inhale through your nose and give me your sigh of relief. Let it out, make noise, do what you got to do. Blow out all the tension from the day and do it again. Give me another one. Inhale through your nostrils, yourself some beautiful, clean, fresh air, and blow it all out as loudly as you need to. And give me another one. Do another one. If you need to make noise a third time, please be my guest and do so. Okay, good. I just want you to breathe normally for a few minutes. Okay. As you are breathing normal, I want to reiterate that you are in a safe space. I want to remind you that you're among friends who you share a unique bond with. It's pretty important to have a group like this that we share this unique bond. During our sessions, it's always important you understand, acknowledge there's nothing to judge here. We are not going to judge you. Um, you're. I don't want you to judge yourself. There's no reason to. Okay? Everything outside of what we're doing here can wait. Right here, right now, it is about you, about your health, your happiness, and your overall well-being. And I cannot think of anything in the world that should be more important than that. There is nothing to do. There's nothing that needs to be said. There are no problems that need to be solved right now. It's just you or us, and you're breathing. Okay. If you should find yourself being distracted by external sounds throughout the session, I want to challenge you to simply acknowledge what you've heard or thought about and gently bring your focus back inward and into your breathing. Okay, this is extremely important. Gently. It's like you're walking with a toddler in the grocery store and they see a toy and they begin to wander off. You're not going to kick them in the back of the head and scream at them. You're going to grab their hand and gently bring them back over to you. That's what I want you to do to yourself when you catch your mind wandering. Be gentle. Okay. Okay. I want you to take a few more deep breaths. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Begin to calm your mind. Okay. So tonight, I want you to begin to move your awareness, take your awareness inward. And let's move our awareness to the soles of our feet. And I want you to take a moment as you're breathing and just observe the sensations in your feet. Don't judge them as good or bad. Just observe how they feel. Notice any nuances, any type of sensations. You need to give yourself a little push on your awareness. Maybe wiggle your toes a little bit. Notice the sensations when you wiggle your toes. Uh, feel the sensations of your toes, maybe against your socks or your shoes, or if you're barefoot and rubbing together. But just notice the sensation, and then take that awareness into the rest of your foot, so feet. Again, it's an imperative that you do not judge. You simply observe. No judgment. Just observe. This is the practice of letting go of any preconditioned judgment or ideas, just observing things for what they really are. And as you continue to inhale, when you inhale, visualize your breath filling your lungs and moving down your body and all the way down and filling your feet. As you exhale, visualize the breath leaving the feet through the legs and abdomen, out the lungs, and out through the body. You may repeat this step for several times. Be sure to observe any sensations you may or may not feel at the time. And now, as you inhale, allow the air to come in through your lungs to your abdomen and let it fill up your legs. And let's bring our awareness into our legs and notice any sensations that you may feel in your legs as well. Again, try not to judge it as good or bad. but just observe the sensations. It's easy if you find a sensation that you've never felt before to observe. But if you experience any type of pain or cramping or any type of soreness, anything like that, it's more of a challenge as you observe the sensation to not judge it as pain and to not have the preconceived notion that comes with the memories and how the injury happened or something of that nature, but it's just to observe it as it is right now, not as it happened before, not how you expect it to feel tomorrow, but how it feels right this second. Oftentimes we find that it may feel differently than we remember. Please continue to breathe, and as you breathe, breathe in the air to your legs. Exhale the air out of your legs as you continue to notice the sensation in your legs. We talk about the legs. Observe sensations in the ankles, calves, knees, thighs, hips, any part of your legs, any and all part of your legs. Continue to breathe in and out. And now, as you continue to breathe, when you begin to exhale, I want you to visualize your legs dissolving right before your eyes and all the sensations dissolving with it as the air escapes your legs and moves to your abdomen and out the lungs and the body. Then, as you inhale, I want you to visualize the breath as it fills your lower back and your pelvis. As you exhale, the air leaves these areas. Again, as you continue to breathe, shift your awareness into the areas of your back and your pelvis. Observe any sensations you may discover. Do not judge them. Just observe, let them go. Continue to breathe. Now, as you inhale, I want you to visualize the breath traveling down the arms, filling the hands. Again, as you do this, notice any sensations. Perhaps you may notice your clothes as they're touching the skin. Maybe your hands or your fingertips are resting on your knees or on the ground or on a piece of furniture. Um, Maybe even notice the effects of gravity. Notice them falling into the surface that they're lying on, which may be something you've never taken the time to experience before. So just observe with curiosity. How does it feel? Continue to breathe into your arms and hands and exhale out of your arms and hands. Observe the sensations, letting them go as you observe them. Now, as you exhale, I'd like you to visualize your hands and your arms dissolving as the breath leaves them behind, all the sensations dissolving with them as the air escapes the arms and moves out through the body. Please continue to breathe. As you continue to breathe, visualize the breath now filling your back and your shoulders, your neck. And I'd like you to notice not only the sensations, but pay particularly close attention to any areas of tension in this area. And as you inhale and exhale the air into these areas and out, noticing sensations, if you find tension, you intentionally use the breath to help relieve this tension. Every time you exhale, send some of the tension out with it. As you inhale, let the tension attach to the air. And again, as you exhale, send part of the tension out with it. Observe. As I do this exercise, I like to visualize that the tension um, clings to the breath, maybe as dirt clings to a white cloth as you're cleaning something. The visualization sometimes helps me uh, achieve this effect. So now I want you to inhale deeply and observe the breath as it fills the chest, expanding the lungs, gives rise to the belly. Maybe you've never noticed how your chest expands and your belly expands when you breathe. Exhale. Inhale again. Again, notice the sensation in the rise and the fall of the belly. Just become aware and observe. And as you continue to breathe, visualize the oxygen rich, cleansing, nurturing air. We talked about the necessity of air. We don't really think about it much, but your lungs do you a service all day, every day. They're bringing you oxygen rich, cleansing, nurturing air. Visualize that filling, going into your lungs and filling your internal organs, your stomach, your kidneys, your heart, your lungs. As you exhale, imagine the negativity and toxins that were once clinging uh, inside your body, clinging to the breath. Like I said, as the dirt clings to the clean white cloth. Visualize it leaving the body as you exhale, and continue to do that as you breathe. And now, as you continue to breathe, I want you to pay close attention to your heartbeat. Just observe. It's there. Some of you may have never really paid attention to your heartbeat under these circumstances before. I found this a fascinating experience when I meditate, when I take the time to actually pay attention to my heartbeat. Just observe and continue to breathe. Now, as you continue to breathe, I want you to inhale deeply and visualize the air that filling your body completely, every component of your body, bringing nurturing oxygen, rich nutrients to each and every single cell of your body from your fingertips to your toes. And exhale the toxins out. Inhale, filling your body completely with the nurturing oxygen rich air. Again, exhaling the toxins out. I like to visualize here when I inhaled that it's just a gentle, beautiful wave of nutrient rich oxygen just washing over me gently. And then again, visualizing exhaling the toxins out. That each time I take an inhale, that it further strengthens and heals my body. As we begin to bring our session to a close, I want you to take in One final full deep breath. When you get to where you feel like you can't breathe anymore, take in one little extra healthy sip of air. As you're inhaling, appreciate it. Appreciate the oxygen that you're able to take in. Go ahead and exhale and understand that your breath is a very special gift that's given to you. Uh, it gives you life each and every time you inhale. And we take it for granted. And try to take a moment throughout the day to just pause and be thankful that you're breathing. Now, as you start to come back, I want you to begin by wiggling your toes and your fingers and gently begin to shift your extremities slowly as you begin to rouse the rest of your body. You may open your eyes. Welcome back. You may treat yourself with a big stretch overhead or perhaps even give yourself a hug. Uh, I think that's pretty important sometimes. We're not very good to ourselves sometimes. We're going to talk about that in the coming weeks, but um, so feel free to give yourself a hug. You've earned it, no doubt. I don't know what you've been through today. It doesn't matter. Your days are anything like mine. You've earned it. So give yourself a big hug. But take a moment, just a second, to acknowledge how you feel right now. Uh, all of the sensations individually in your body as a whole, just overall. Take internal awareness of your emotions and how you feel. Um, and make a conscious decision as you get up and walk away from here to take that with you. Remember that, um, because undoubtedly, as you go through tomorrow and life brings you whatever it's going to bring you tomorrow, remember this feeling. You can. This is what we want to work towards. This is what we're here for. And eventually, our practice will bring us the opportunity to practice this throughout the day. And so we can feel like this all day. And I've had people challenge me on that and say, there's no way to feel, anyone can feel like that all day. And my question is, why not? Why? There's no reason we can't. Life's going to bring us curveballs and pain for sure. But why can't we feel like this the majority of the time? And even when we feel bad, learn techniques to be able to turn that sadness around very quickly and make the best of a bad situation. I think that's where we find happiness, and I really believe that. So um, that's it. I kept you long tonight. I thank you so much for staying with me. Again, I tried to whittle this down. I guess I didn't do a very good job of it, but there was a lot I wanted to give you tonight because where we're headed next week with some things. So I really appreciate that you're here. I hope you got a lot out of tonight. I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts about tonight, and even what you think when you wake up tomorrow morning. If you have some thoughts tonight, or you wake up tomorrow morning, or something strikes you throughout the week, coming in next week, we'll do do session 4, and I will bring a glass of water so my voice doesn't crack as much as it's cracking right now. But we're going to do session 4 next week at the same time. I will keep it under an hour. I promise you that. Um, other than that, again, thanks for coming, and I hope you have a great evening.